What's up guys, I'm back and today we've got another Tonemaster Pro video. I want to run this thing through these two power amps, the Boss WAZA tube amp expander and the Fryette power station, to hear what they sound like. Now, you got a little taste of each of them in the introduction playing. They both deliver power in very different ways, but ultimately they serve the same purpose if you're just wanting to make something like a preamp loud and connected to a speaker cabinet. Each of them have their strengths and weaknesses, which I'll briefly touch on in a little bit. But for this video's purposes, I'm mainly kind of focusing on them as a power amp. And for today, the signal path is just the Explorer into Tonemaster Pro, into one of these, and then into the Splawn 412 cabinet with an SM57 and an MD421 on a Scumback H75 speaker. So right now I've got the Plexi pulled up. This is my main gigging patch, which, by the way, I've uploaded a fairly recent revision of this onto the Fender, on the community page where you can search. If you just search for my YouTube screen name here, you'll find both my Plexi patch as well as a SLO 100 patch. And each of these are meant for if you're playing guitar and singing. So you'll have a vocal processing line down below, which is again how I use it, and the EQing of the the way that the cabinets are set up and the way that the amp is EQ'd and everything like that is meant to go through an FR. If you're going through something like studio monitors or headphones, or bypassing the amps or this cabinets altogether and going into a real speaker cabinet and power amp, you'll have to do some fine tuning on that. But I tuned it specifically for my my EV ZLX12 monitor that I use behind me. So anyways, let's get going here. This is the, I've got it running right now into the power station, and on the back of it, I've got it self-attenuating, where basically it's running into itself, so that you can use the bright and warm, the deep and basically the low end and high end toggle switches to kind of fine tune the treble and bass response on there. So we'll get going here, and I really won't mess too much with this. I want to focus on this. So here we go. The bright, the treble response switch is in the bright mode. I'm going to change it to flat, and it's going to kind of shave off that bite on the top end. And in the edge position, it gets really, really sharp. And for the show, I set up the drive pedal in front of the amp to use the Pugilist. Now, I know that's probably different from what I've uploaded, because I kind of stumbled on the Pugilist by accident. I accidentally tapped on it, and when you turn on, when you add a pedal, it adds it into the chain activated. And when I heard it, I was like, oh, this is cool. Let me play around with this some more. And so I kind of stuck with the Pugilist there, and these are the settings that I've got here. So that's gain A, and it's basically like two different drives that you can have on simultaneously, and you can blend as much in as one of the other as you want. And then on the second page, I've got the set to blend, and the bass boost is on. And so let me get out of there, and we will deactivate it, and then I'll turn it on and you can hear what it does. That's probably a little bright. Let me go ahead and knock that back down to the flat, and we'll hear what it sounds like. And bright. I kind of like it in the flat position the best. It gives a little bit of a kind of a upper mid-range boost in there, or it doesn't cut it the way that it does when you go to the bright and the edge setting. All right, now I've got it running into the WAZA tube amp expander, and the main thing that we're going to focus on with this, is the reactive load settings. Again, there's a low end and a high end adjustment on here, but what it's doing is it's physically changing components inside of this thing to adjust the way that the low end and the top end respond, which is really cool, and it is the kind of the one unique feature among these other attenuators and load boxes and reactive loads that's kind of like the standout feature that this thing has that none of the other units have. It also has built-in effects, it also has MIDI, and it's got a slew of different options on the back in terms of your routing, your input, output. It can change channels on the amplifier, and again, you can use a MIDI controller to do all of this stuff. So it really is kind of a Swiss Army knife on stage. However, you're only limited to one impulse response at a time. Loading the impulse responses is a huge pain in the butt, and honestly, I think that the Power Station, although much simpler for this type of task, if you're just wanting to take something like this, or a Quad Cortex, or a Kemper, whatever, and just make it loud through a guitar cabinet, the Power Station kind of wins this one because it's about half the price of this, and you don't have to worry about all the extra stuff if this is doing all the stuff that you need. Right now it's on the low setting for the resonance, which it has more low-end emphasis, and the Presence Z control is on the lower mid-range setting, so it's a bit more of a lower mid-range focus. So let's go ahead and get going here. And the resonance set to the lower mids. This setting is always very dull no matter what amp I'm sending through it. I'm not really sure what the deal is with it, but it just kind of dulls the sound overall. High mids. And the highs. All right, now let's change the presence controls around and see what that sounds like. Gonna go to the low setting. decide which one I like best. Either the low and the mid highs are both really good sounding to my ears here in the room. So yeah, let's check out a different amp. All right, now I've got it on the Tangerine RV53. It's obviously an orange amp, probably the Rock Reverb 50 Mark III if I had to guess. But anyways, these are the settings that I'm using, and right now we are still in the power station. And the frequency switches, the bright is on the flat setting, and the low end is on the flat setting as well. So here we go. Bright. And edge. That's a very, very thick sound. That's the sound like that I was originally hearing from the OR30 once I had the gain really cranked and the master volume really cranked up. Let's turn the gain down a little bit, see if we can clean that up a little, and we'll hit it with that pugilist and see what happens. All right, the pugilist. It lost a little too much low end. Lost a lot of everything. So I guess this is one of those instances where you really need to find the right drive pedal to match with the right amplifier in this unit. The pugilist happens to just work really well with the Plexi. All right, let's hear the WAZA tube amp expander. All right, it's still in the same settings as last time. That is the resonant Z is on the low setting and the presence Z is on the high mid setting. Immediately you can hear the difference between these two units. This one is cleaner, it's a little bit thinner sounding. This is a lot fatter sounding, but the thickness can also become a liability if you're wanting a really clean, tight, percussive sound. Again, because the volume is cranked up so hard, it is a little looser than what it would be if it were pulled back a little bit. So there's a little bit of a balance there. But let's play with this reactive load here and see what different settings we can get. definitely think that the low mid setting on the Present Z control sounds much better on this amp than it did with the Plexi. It filled out the low end pretty well. Filled it out even more there. The low setting on the Present Z sounds even better in my opinion. All right, let's go back in the Tangerine here, and we are going to crank up the gain a little bit more. Let's change out this overdrive pedal for, let's go back to, not that. Let's see. Where'd you go? Okay. Enchanter, which is the Timmy. There are some who call it Tim. Timmy sounds 10 times better. Excuse me, the Enchanter sounds 10 times better on that amp than the Pugilist. However, I think the Pugilist sounds really good on the Plexi. So again, like I said, these things really do interact in very meaningful ways with one another, and it's very much just kind of a trial and error that you're going to have to go through to find what drive works the best with your amp that you are using. All right, well, that's going to wrap up this video with the Fryette Power Station, the Boss WAZA Tube Amp Expander, and last but not least, the Fender Tonemaster Pro. And again, big shout out to the guys at Zzounds for sending me this unit to try out. I'm still not ready to do my full review on it. However, I am 3 gigs in with this bad unit and it's been doing awesome. It has been killing it. Done 2 full band shows as well as an acoustic gig with this thing, and it has been flawless. So again, Really impressed so far. We'll talk about it later in the main review video for this. But for the time being, hopefully if you are someone who prefers the sound of a real speaker cabinet on stage and are looking for some form of power delivery to amplify not just this, but if you have any of the other modelers that are out, or even one of the other analog kind of amp in a box pedals, these two things are outstanding units. This one is more kind of squarely focused on being a very, very good tube-powered reactive load that can attenuate a really loud amp and give you that natural warmth of a tube power section. The tube amp expander, solid state, twice the wattage, but really not that much louder in my experience. Much more fully featured, has an impulse response loader built in, so you don't have to use a speaker cabinet if you don't want to. If you have just a regular little drive pedal or amp in a box that you want to run into here, it can add effects with it. You can, again, tweak the top end and low end with this reactive load over here. You can control stuff with MIDI, and it has multiple outputs. You have the stereo outputs for your left and right XLR. You have a dedicated mix line out to the house, so you can control everything completely independent here, and the house level never changes. So the sound man gets to set his own level, and you can control everything here. Also has a headphone output, which I like using, sending that into the FR. So I have my, you can use the master out if you want to, the line out, or you can use the headphone out if you're wanting to have two separate paths that you have differing volume controls with. So yeah, very powerful device, but again, I feel like it just doesn't quite sound as good as the Fryette Power Station in terms of just a pure quality of sound. So yeah, two very different devices doing one specific job of taking this and making it loud through a speaker cabinet. And hopefully what you heard today gave you a good amount of information if you're looking for something to amplify either this or any other non-powered guitar processor or effects pedal that you might have, and you're just wanting to get louder. Send it through a speaker cabinet, get more of a real amplifier sound on stage. These are two killer units. Obviously there are other ways to get power, whether it's through the effects return of a normal guitar amp like we saw with the orange in the previous video, or other rack mount power units. I know Steve Fryette has his LX2, and he also designed the Synergy 50 watt single unit power amp as well. I think they're both excellent choices, and then you've got a slew of solid state power amps that you can use as well. So anyways, I'm going to shut up now. You've heard hopefully what you needed to hear, and I will be back with another video with this, and it's going to be the review video, and we'll have a lot of fun with that. So anyways, again, big shout out to the guys at Zzounds for sending me this so that I can bring this content to you guys. And if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all of the new cool stuff that I show you guys and bring to the channel, and to feed the algorithm and get more people checking these things out. So anyways, hope you guys enjoy the video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.